So can you tell me a little bit about your diagnosis then, please? Like a little bit about what it was like and what saw you go for that initial appointment?
Yeah, I was aware from my early 30s, 32, 33, that I had a little twitch in my left arm and nothing more. And so I didn't do anything about it because there wasn't anything to be done. But as the few years went by, I knew it had got a bit worse, but I wasn't talking to anyone about it. And again, similarly to you, it was a friend who said to me one day when he'd just come round for a brew, a colleague from work and a friend, and he said, "What's up with your arm?" And I said, "Oh, what do you mean?" And he said, "It shakes." And I said, "Well, not really." But that was enough of a spike, really, to make me think I ought to go and get it looked at. So I went to the GP and I started to tell him about it. And my hand, it was my left hand, just started to shake far worse than it had ever done when I'd been on my own. And my foot started with it as well, and I thought, bloody, that's a bit of a shock. And that was just talking to the doctor, because that made it real and serious. And we did some blood tests and blah, 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 and then he said he wanted me to see a neurologist. And I asked him what for, and he wouldn't say, which is fair enough. So I did the research and came to the view that it was possibly Parkinson's, and that would be manageable, I thought, whereas the other things were definitely not wanted. And then I got a neurology appointment at the hospital, went along to see an old guy there who was on his way to retirement, and he said that he thought it was probably Parkinson's, but I was too young. Now, this time I was about 37, and I knew I wasn't too young to have it. I knew that, and I didn't understand why he said it. Anyway, he did some scans. There was nothing there. So he sent me down to the place in London there, the neurological hospital, to see a guy called Niall Quinn, who was a very well-established neurologist, who basically, he took one look at me almost and he said, well, I mean, in fairness to him, we talked a bit first, he asked me some questions, he had me walk up and down and wobble myself, and then he said, "You've got Parkinson's, you know that, don't you?" Which I did, in fairness again to him. And he wrote 5 bullet points down on a piece of paper, told me them, and then said he'd get back in touch with my neurologist at home.
Really?
Next,
Wow.
I came out of the hospital, and I was in a bit of a sort of fog, really, because although I had expected it, it still wasn't real until then. And I went wandering, and when Parkinson's UK was a very small organisation, lots more than it is now, they had a little office quite near the hospital, and I took a wrong turning, found myself outside their door, and he'd said, "Join the Parkinson's Society." So I went in and joined.
It's fake.
And then went to work.
Wow.
And then I didn't stay very long at work. I went home because I had, it was a 3-hour trip to get back.
You sort of don't know what to do with yourself, do you? Really, on that day, it's a bit.
No, it's not. Like you, I went on my own. I mean, that's how we operate here anyway. My wife and I, I mean, she'll come with me if I want her to, but there's no expectation that she would come. And I didn't think it was going to be required for me. In fairness, it wasn't. It was just an odd rest of the day, really. And go home thinking, well, what do I do now? There's no follow up, like what, you need emergency surgery or anything like that.
There's no action, is there? There's no kind of next step almost. It's very wishy-washy for a bit. You kind of
Yeah,
get your answer
you
that you
got it.
wanted. You not that you wanted, but you got your answer that you've been waiting for. You've been
Yeah,
waiting for some sort of answer, and you expect there to be like a big crash and everything to start happening, and then nothing happens. It's weird.
there's nothing to be done.
Yeah, and you're the same person that you were when you walked in there that morning,
Yeah, but different
but different. Yeah,
because it's been crystallised on you.
yeah,
Um, and you've got things like telling your people, telling
yeah,
your family or your lovers
yeah.
or whoever, and friends and that, and you don't know how they're going to react. But in a sense, it doesn't matter because you're still you, as you rightly say.
Yeah.
So it was a long process from the first time I went to my GP to that day in London was about 2 years,
Wow.
which is not uncommon.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a long time to not know, isn't it?
it is a long time, and if you really don't know at all, I mean, I had a pretty good idea, but again, I was blessed, you see, with being very busy. I had a busy job that kept me occupied and kept me thinking, and a career path to follow.
Yeah.
Kids growing up, house to manage, and
Stuff to be getting on with.
yeah.
So how has the condition progressed since then? I mean, what would you say is your most troubling symptom nowadays?
Fatigue is one of the worst. Anxiety.
Yeah.
I used to be a bull, and now I'm not. I was a probation officer,
Oh.
and a senior manager in the probation service. I ran Salford district, and I then was Her Majesty's Inspector of Probation. You don't do jobs like that if you're a retiring flower, and I wasn't, and that helped a lot. But now I've been retired 6 years, and I'm still not retirement age, I might add. And I don't have that confidence. I don't have that inner strength. Never mind the physical strength that you lose. I don't have the strength of my character that I used to have, and that bugs me. So I get worried about things and waste time worrying.
You can't help it though. I mean, it's difficult. I think it's especially difficult for men. I think when you lose your strength, and especially if you've been someone that's kind of worked in a traditionally, strong job, it makes it difficult. It's hard enough at the best of times, I think.
Well, it's against what all your plans and your expectations earlier on in your life.
Yeah.
It turns them on the head rather. So the fact that I shake, it doesn't bother me too much because it's not too bad, but it's got worse this last year. The sleep thing was very problematic and caused me lots of problems at different times. The falling over is really the scary bit. I spend most of my time on my feet expecting to fall backwards and bang my head on something.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I have fallen a few times, but not backwards. And thank goodness. The longer I can put that one off.
Yeah.
And I suppose the one that it's a rare thing, but if you go into hospital and you're a self-medicator, they take your drugs off you. It's awful. And
you don't get
they
the right
take
times,
them off you and you lose control. I've had some rows about that because I've been in hospital a couple of times since I was diagnosed, and I can't stand it. Not to have them at hand for me to manage.
Yeah.
Doesn't go down well.
You sort of get them when they're ready to give them to you, don't they? From what I've heard, and I know Parkinson's UK have done a campaign in the past about getting medication on time and stuff. But people, they can't get everyone to do it.
No, but don't get me going. Sorry.
No, not at all. I mean, the thing is, Parkinson's medication is so important that you get it at the right time, and it can mean a good day or a bad day. And I think people just don't understand that. They just don't understand that it can be that.
They don't understand it, and when you tell them, they don't believe you. They think you're just being silly. And it's all right, but really, this needs to be dealt with at ministerial level.
Yeah.
And not messed about with hospital by hospital or anything like that. because when you do it like that, you get my last hospital experience where the first person I saw said, "That's a very sensible idea. You know what you're doing with it. Yeah, you carry on." The next shift, no, give it to me. I'm going to lock them away.
Really? Oh, for God's
You
sake.
know, and I said, "Well, this is just even worse than you're both saying no."
Yeah, yeah. The inconsistency means that, you know, there's potential for you to have them, but they're just not letting you.
No, that's shocking.
That's really bad.
But that's not a symptom of Parkinson's. That's a political overspill issue. So
It is, that's true. So you seem to be quite involved in the Parkinson's community. You're up north, aren't you? You're up north.
near Manchester.
Near Manchester, yeah. Have you always been so involved in kind of and active in your life, or was it something that kind of, did it come about from Parkinson's, or did it take a little bit of time for you to get into the world of Parkinson's and to start getting involved?
Because there wasn't much of a world when I was diagnosed. There wasn't much of a world of Parkinson's. The Cure Parkinson's Trust wasn't in existence yet. Parkinson's UK was called Parkinson's Disease Society. I was very small, and there wasn't much in the way of the internet, if you can believe that one. Mm-hmm. So the opportunity to network was not very high anyway, and in those first few years I was not that interested because I was busy. I was getting some career jumps in.
Yeah.
And I'd accelerated my plan for career on the basis that my career was foreshortened.
Yeah.
So I wasn't too fussed about that. But I suppose after 5 or 6 years, I discovered a chap that it was the Parkinson's. By then they changed their name, Parkinson's UK. It was their chat facility on their website. Mm-hmm. And I was just reading what people were saying and what people were talking about. I wasn't joining in much. I'm not particularly sociable in that respect. I don't mean unpleasantly. I just, I'm just quiet. But I'm interested in what people are saying.
Yeah.
And when I've got something to say, I'm happy to say it. But I need to know what people are saying first.
Yeah.
So I spent most of the time that I was online at that was just looking at the issues that were coming up and what people were saying about them. And then just starting to relate. I mean, it's the difference between initiating a conversation or responding to somebody. 1 or 2 people saw you online and said, "Oh, we've seen you a few times, we've not said anything, how are you?" And, it's fine to respond to that. I don't mind doing that. Yeah. And that's how that started. And then you get to know a few people that way. Things start happening. There's the big issue of fundraising. And I got to know a few people who were doing quite a lot. Parkinson's Trust had been established by then. Mm-hmm. And they were pushing very hard. Tom was making himself known. I got to know Becky Hurd. I don't know if you know her. She's called Becky Duggan now.
Yeah, I think I heard of her.
Yeah, and after a few years, we found that we were both writing poetry. Mm-hmm. So we got together with an artist and we published a book of art and poetry about Parkinson. Talked about setting up a charity. The distance was too far. She lives in Worcestershire, I live up in the Peak District. And we had different views of what it should be. So we didn't do a joint charity. I did that myself with some friends. When I retired, I was absolutely floored by the fact of having to retire. It was my decision, but it was the realisation that I had to, because I couldn't do my job.
Yeah.
I was asleep at work, and when you're leading teams and you're an inspector from the government and people are anxious that you're there and you're nodding off on their files.
It's a difficult job, isn't it, to be doing if you've got something.
So, and at meetings with chief officers and chief constables, and you can't do it. And so I held my hands up. My boss had been telling me very gently for about 18 months that I should stop. But it took me that long to figure it. But when I did retire, I was terrified that the next thing in life was death. And that took a lot of hard work to sort out. And I had to do things to sort it out. So setting up a charity properly, a registered charity.
Amazing.
Called Parkinson's Equip, stands for Enhanced Quality in Parkinson's.
Nice.
And to help people who want to get involved in arts and creative activities.
That's
people with
fantastic.
Parkinson's who want to do that, because their research tells us they're really good.
Yeah, it's so true. So many people who get diagnosed find themselves suddenly interested in creative pursuits or expressing themselves creatively. Can't speak creatively. It's a fascinating thing.
Yeah, and you've got Phil with his group down there in Kent.
Yeah.
We funded that for a year.
Oh, amazing.
And that's been so good. The feedback we've had from the fact that we funded it, because it wouldn't have worked, it wouldn't have happened if we didn't fund it.
Yeah.
But one woman who was the wife of one of the men who go to the group said we'd saved his life.
Wow.
In her, by not only us, obviously, because Phil's the driving force, but the fact that we'd set it up, funded it, so it could happen, was just what he needed.
That's amazing. That's an incredible thing, you know, to be able to have that impact on someone.
It's quite, charities, we've decided to ramp it up a little bit now, get more money and get more name known, get the name known better, I should say. I took up playing saxophone because that was my creative thing, music, really, more PE. And visiting people more, and you know, things like that. I wrote a book, a memoir, which I'm now publishing.
What's it called?
It's going to be called Out of Order: My Life with Parkinson.
I like that. That's good. What would you say you're proudest of since your diagnosis? You've done quite a lot of different things.
I think the charity overall, and the fact that I'm still going.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm still going. I'm less hampered than many people who've had it for a lot shorter period of time. But I've had a PET scan. There's no question that it is idiopathic Parkinson's. And when I had my PET scan, which was about 10 or 12 years ago now, there was very little of the area of brain cell that, do you know about that? The Niagara producing the dopamine. There was very little of that left 12 years ago. So I don't know why I'm still able to do what I can do.
Magic.
Well, it's that or coffee. I don't know.
Magical coffee.
But yeah, I am sort of proud of that in so far as I can be. But I think the charity is the thing. The things that there's few in number, but they're significant in impact.
That's amazing.
We've done to help, and there's only 3 of us doing it. So
must be a lot of work.
Sometimes it is. Yeah, I mean, I try and keep a balance in my life. I try and take time when I'm not pretending to work and pretend to relax a bit. You know. It gets problematic when you can't sit still after an hour and you can't stand still after an hour. So you're up and down, up and down.
I'm constantly starting things, stopping things, starting things, stopping things. I never finish anything because I get kind of fidgety and twitchy, and then I'm like, I can't do it anymore, so I'll go and sit and do something else, and then I'll forget to come back and do the thing I was doing before.
And you find it there in the morning.
You've got like 10 things half done.
I was supposed to do that yesterday. But if that's the worst thing that happens to me in a day, then I'm quite happy.
Oh, it's good on you. Well said. Very well said. So what piece of advice would you give to someone who's been newly diagnosed? Or a couple of pieces of advice if you can't pick one.
Wow. That's a really tough question because people are so different.
Yeah.
And what I'd want to say to somebody would be, okay, from here on in, you do not give up. You never give up. You do not lie down. You never lie down. But a lot of people can't take that, and I absolutely understand that. So I wouldn't say that to them if I didn't know them. I think I'd say, try not to worry about it, because not just in a sort of silly, oh, don't worry about it way.
Yeah.
Try not to worry about it right now, because there is a lot of help, a really lot of help. The medical stuff is there, and it's coming on slowly, but it's coming on. But the resources that some of the charities have got, the encouragement that some of the groups can give, depending where you live and so forth, the sort of project that you described, a resource that people can tap into, that's from the heart of people who know what they're talking about, is hugely helpful. And the worst thing people can do is, and I think older men tend to be the ones who are more likely to do this, is hand the tablets over to their wives and sit in the armchair.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing to do. So I would tell people not to do that, but I'd be more gentle with them than never give up, never lie down.